Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we tackle a story that's once again putting Julius Malema and the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, at the center of political debate in South Africa. At a fiery rally that drew both supporters and critics into heated exchanges, Malema claimed that every major political party in South Africa, except his own, is controlled by white economic interests. Malema didn't hold back. He accused the African National Congress, the Democratic Alliance, and even smaller opposition parties of being fronts, black faces leading for white wealth. According to Malema, despite appearances, the decisions, policies, and the real direction of these parties are dictated by white capital. Look beyond the black faces at the top, he said. The money, the decisions, the real power sit with white monopoly capital. For Malema's critics, this was another example of the EFF's so-called politics of racial division. But for his supporters, it was a bold truth that few other leaders dared to speak. In a country still haunted by the economic legacy of apartheid, where land ownership, corporate control, and wealth are still largely in white hands, Malema's words struck a nerve. Unsurprisingly, political opponents hit back almost immediately. DA leader John Steenhuisen condemned the remarks, calling them proof of a bankrupt politics based on racial scapegoating. Steenhuisen warned that Malema's strategy would only deepen national divisions, distract from serious governance issues, and further isolate South Africa from much-needed investment. The ANC, on its part, responded more diplomatically but just as firmly. ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe reiterated the ruling party's commitment to non-racialism and unity, pointing out that the ANC's founding principles demand building a South Africa that belongs to all who live in it, black and white alike. Still, political analysts are quick to point out that Malema's timing was no accident. With elections fast approaching, Malema and the EFF are attempting to sharpen their message and reclaim ground from other parties that have encroached on their traditional voter base, especially the disillusioned youth and working-class voters yearning for meaningful economic change. In this context, painting rival parties as puppets of white capital serves to differentiate the EFF sharply. Malema is essentially saying, if you want real economic transformation, if you want land reform, if you want nationalization of key sectors, there's only one party you can trust. Yet critics warn that this narrative, while powerful, simplifies a complex reality. South Africa's economy is influenced by a variety of forces: multinational corporations, trade unions, internal party factions, black business elites, and global markets. Reducing all economic power to white monopoly capital overlooks the growing, although still limited, black middle and upper classes, as well as black entrepreneurs who are playing increasingly important roles. Furthermore, critics argue that Malema's approach risks alienating parts of the electorate that are desperate for practical solutions rather than ideological battles. Issues like load shedding, water shortages, crumbling municipalities, and high unemployment require effective governance, not just radical rhetoric. But Malema's comments resonate because they tap into a deeper frustration. Almost 3 decades after the fall of apartheid, economic power remains largely in the same hands. Ownership of land, equity in major corporations, access to high-paying jobs, in all these areas, transformation has been painfully slow. For many South Africans, especially those who live in poverty, it feels like political liberation never fully translated into economic freedom. This is the emotional undercurrent that the EFF skillfully taps into, the sense of betrayal, the sense that the promise of 1994 has been hijacked. For these voters, Malema's message is not divisive, it's an awakening. It's a call to continue the struggle for full liberation, not just in name, but in ownership, in control, in real power. Importantly, Malema's rhetoric also serves another strategic function. By painting all other parties as sellouts, he inoculates the EFF against accusations of political opportunism. No matter what compromises the EFF might make in coalition talks or governance scenarios, they can always claim ideological purity compared to their rivals. And while the political establishment dismisses his comments, the reality is that the EFF support base remains solid and, in some places, is even growing. Particularly among younger voters who have no strong loyalty to the ANC's liberation history, the EFF's call for radical change sounds increasingly attractive. However, South Africans must ask themselves tough questions. Will the country's challenges, unemployment, inequality, corruption, really be solved through more radical racial rhetoric? Or is a more nuanced, practical, and inclusive economic plan needed to move forward? The stakes are high. Elections are around the corner, and the narrative that wins the hearts and minds of South Africans will determine the future direction of the nation. If Malema's framing of the debate prevails, we can expect more pressure on businesses, more demands for land expropriation, and a political climate of intensified racial polarization. But if his critics manage to sway public opinion, they will argue for policies that seek to grow the economy inclusively, reform institutions methodically, and avoid radical disruptions that could scare off investors and deepen the crisis. One thing is certain, Julius Malema knows how to command attention. Whether you agree or disagree with him, his ability to shape national conversations cannot be underestimated. His words have ensured that issues of race, wealth, and power will dominate the political discourse leading into the next election. As political temperatures continue to rise, we as South Africans must decide, do we confront these painful truths head-on, or do we continue to patch over them in the name of stability? Are we prepared to radically rethink economic ownership, or will we settle for cosmetic changes that leave the foundations untouched? These are the questions that will define South Africa's future. And there are questions that no one, regardless of political affiliation, can afford to ignore. Thanks for watching. If you found this analysis insightful, please give this video a like, subscribe to our channel for more deep political commentary, and don't forget to leave a comment below. What's your take on Julius Malema's claim? Is he speaking truth to power, or stoking unnecessary division? Let's hear your views in the comments. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and see you next time.